Oh, welcome back guys. Prado 150 out of here. Just doing a bit of cleaning up in my shed at the moment. Weather's not looking too good outside. Constant rain for the last week as to the rest of Queensland. So I'm up in Toowoomba. We're doing fine. There's quite a bit of water around, but we're not flooding where we are. So unfortunately for us, we've had a bit of COVID in the family this week. So Lachlan, our middle child, he tested positive a few days ago. Unfortunately, Shelley tested positive this morning, so that just complicates things a little bit, just in relation to her kidney dialysis. But hey, it's okay. We're doing okay. So I've just come out to take a bit of fresh air from the COVID house at the moment. Now, today's video. So we're going to talk about engine tuning. Thanks to Highfields Mechanical, Craig, I went out and had an engine tuned to the Prado 150. So it's a 2015 model, October build, the 3 litre one. I'm very happy with it. I've got no issues, complications, nothing. It's going along very well and I'm very happy. So thanks Craig for that, I really appreciate it. Now, there's a few people's opinions and thoughts on engine tuning, and rightly so. I was a bit sceptical going in to get one myself in the beginning. So I suppose some of the comments I've seen or heard about is, you know, welcome to the Cracked Piston family. So I've gone and had a beer with Dan in Dan's shed, and we've had a fairly extensive chat about engine tuning. So, you know, what's a bad tune, what complications can you run into, and just some other things. Dan's, in my opinion, is a professional in relation to the Prados. He knows, he's a wealth of knowledge. And if you watch my other videos with him in it, you will soon discover that. So I suppose I trust his opinion and you know, his thoughts on getting a tune for Prado. So I just thought I'd give you a bit of background on Dan, how I came across Dan. So one day I looked up the old, you know, Google, and I was looking up auto leckies. So what I did was I contacted, unbeknownst to me what I know now, but I rang Dan at the time, and he was a mobile mechanic or automotive, auto electric mechanic, and he came out to do some wiring on my car. I think it was a brake controller, in fact, that he put in on that day. So since then, I've got to know Dan, and when I heard that he was a Prado man or worked on a lot of Prados, knew everything about him, I started going to see him for you know, in preparation for the Cape York trip. Well, you're going to be the main star, mate, so I'm facing you. Well, Dan, cheers, mate.
It's beer o'clock.
I reckon,
it's,
yeah.
Whatever it is, 6 o'clock.
That's right, you've done a good day's work, obviously, by the look of it.
It is far from over, but anyway, we'll call it quits for today.
I've showed up to make sure he's called it quits for the day, isn't it right?
Yeah.
With the beers. So, yeah, we're just at Dan's Automotive again, and yeah, so I've done the tune,
You have.
as you know, and you gave me a bit of advice on that, Dan, for the Prado. So yeah, I just here to talk to Dan about the tune. Since doing that video, I've had a few comments about welcome to the Cracked, you know, Piston Club and a few other bits and pieces, which probably can be true depending on how that all works. So I thought I'd just share with you guys what Dan's opinion is about the tune, and maybe a few other little subjects here and there about the Prado, but we are talking about the Prado, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, over to you, mate. What do you reckon? Like, I know there's good tunes, bad tunes, piston cracking tunes, all that. So let's dispel the myth of tuning.
There's a list as long as both of mine and your arms of
what
should or shouldn't have happened, what could or couldn't have happened, and at the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing: the fine details.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got your vehicle tuned. Now, as
Can
far as
I'm going to interrupt you.
yeah,
So let's go back to basics, maybe, if you think it's a good way to start. Maybe for people that don't know what a tune is or are looking into it, maybe start from there. Why would you go and get a tune? Particularly, well, we're talking about Prado, so on the Prado, and mine's the 3 litre
the 1
turbo
kV.
diesel.
Yeah.
It's a phone that never stops, does it, mate?
Never stops.
Customer.
So basically, I'll just start. Okay, so as far as I'm aware, you've got a fairly sedate tune. It was just something just to lift the performance a little bit and just give it a slightly better pickup, a bit better acceleration. There's various different levels of tuning, and just to clarify this before we go any further, a piggyback chip is not basically tuning a vehicle. Okay, a piggyback chip does certain things to the factory ECU to prompt it to gain more power or become more responsive, so on and so forth. It is not actually a tune as such. It is a module designed to trick that factory ECU into doing things outside of its normal operating range.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is where the problem comes in with people saying that they've had a poor tune or they've had catastrophic engine damage, so on and so forth, after having a tune. We want to get one thing straight. A tune is a tune where simply the factory ECU has been flashed with updated software, modified software specifically to suit your vehicle. That is a tune. A piggyback chip or a performance chip is simply a device that has generic mapping in there and prompts your factory ECU to basically keep the injectors open for a bit longer, make the throttle itself fast reacting, so on and so forth. There's many things that they actually do. Some works differently to others, but they all have something that they override the factory tuning on, basically.
Yeah.
You unplug that chip and it goes back to exactly how it was, like nothing was ever added.
Yeah.
So a proper tune is a custom thing, specifically to suit your vehicle, and it is done through the factory ECU. It's actually flashed to the ECU.
So when you say for my vehicle, so my actual vehicle,
your actual vehicle,
and then if someone else gets a tune, it's their vehicle, isn't it? It's not just one you buy off the shelf.
It's not a one size fits all
for a Prado 150.
Yeah.
So okay,
which is what 90% of your piggyback plug-in chips do. They are just a generic override, basically.
So just to clarify what you said, so another way, so I can go into a shop and I can buy a chip, is it?
Yeah.
And I'll plug that into the ECU?
Some of them plug into various different places, but they'll possibly plug into the ECU, into the actual injectors
and
themselves.
that'll be labelled Prado 150.
Yeah, 1 KD,
Mega Tune or Mega Performance.
Whatever.
Someone plugs that in,
and
that could go into a car that's done 2 kilometres, 20,000, 200,000, whatever. Okay, and it tricks the computer into thinking that certain values are there when they're not. Is it?
Basically, yeah. So,
and that's not the way to go.
No. So, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when common rails were becoming more prominent on the market, that's basically all we had was a piggyback style chip that enhanced the performance in certain areas.
Right. So one program fits all. Is that kind of how?
pretty much that was the case. There are some out there that are slightly adjustable with potentiometers and things like that, but yeah, we've gone away from that now, and now the best way is to actually get your factory ECU flash tuned with specific software to suit your vehicle, your modifications, what you actually want to do with the vehicle. It's not just a generic thing. And yes, there is certain amounts of values that you input into these tunes that are generic across the board, but they're always slightly manipulated in some way or another. Like your exhaust system may not be the same as the next guy's. Your application for the vehicle might not be the same. You know, someone might want pure power, someone else might want fuel economy, or something with plenty of torque and towing. That's the difference. Yeah.
So when I got my tune, so Craig from Highfields Mechanical, he said, "What are you going to be using this vehicle for?" So I said, "Oh, well, what else can I use it for?"
Yeah.
So he done a test to make sure everything was okay on the car, like the injectors, make sure they're okay. We cleaned the MAF sensor, we did that.
Yeah.
Then he had someone that he gave, we did a dyno tune to start with. Then he gave those figures to old mate, the programmer, with what I wanted. And then he had a program sent back, and then he plugged it into the car. So is that what you're saying? So that was...
Yeah, so basically, again, not all vehicles and engines are going to run the same. That you might have two 150 series Prados, both with 1KDs, both with 150,000 kilometers on them, but they might run slightly different. A lot of ECUs in modern vehicles are all self-learning. They adjust themselves to a degree to suit your driving styles and techniques, right?
Okay.
So it may already have certain values in that particular map that you've basically created because that's the way the vehicle is driven.
Yeah.
So you can't assume that the one vehicle to another is going to be the same.
Yeah.
So that's why they pull the values out that's actually in that particular map and assess that and go from there, really. Yeah, so that's what I say. It is a custom thing. There won't be one that's entirely the same.
So why? So why are there people that say, "Oh, welcome to the Cracked Piston Club"? What's all that about?
Yeah. So in 15 years, I think I've only ever had 3 1KDs with catastrophic engine failure, and that's been because of certain things. It's never been because of the tune.
Okay. Yeah. What are people worried about?
There's a lot of controversy over this, and at the end of the day, the reason why this particular engine failure happens is because vehicles have had a poor tune. They've had certain modifications added that weren't really up to standard. They're second-rate parts, so on and so forth.
So poor, what do you mean by poor tune?
So not a reputable tuner, someone who has gone, "Oh, I can do this, I can make it a bit more powerful and more responsive," but they haven't actually taken into account you still got to make sure the vehicle is running, the engine is running, so it's running well and safely. So the other thing as well is pushing the vehicle beyond its means. So at the end of the day, the tune is good, it feels more powerful, it's got more response, it's better on fuel, so on and so forth. That doesn't turn it into a Mack truck. You still have to treat it within its means. So that doesn't mean going...
So is that a tune part or is that a driver part?
It's a driver part, yeah. So the few that I've had come in that, and we're specifically talking about 1KDs here, I've had many other diesel engines that have had terrible engine failure because of poor engineering or other things, but the 1KDs, the only 3 I've had that have had terrible engine failure is because of poor tuning and driver misuse.
Yeah.
Right. So
I suppose if we go another step deeper, driver misuse. So explain what that means.
Yeah.
What would that mean?
Yeah, so we don't want to offend anyone here when we basically go. It all comes down to knowing your vehicle.
Yeah.
And knowing its limitations. Every vehicle will have its limitations.
Yeah.
So if you decide to buy a 150 series Prado with a 1KD that's got 200,000 on it, and then go and buy a 2.5 ton van and still expect to pull up that same hill at that same speed, at that same pace that you did with no van on the back, you're kidding yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So trying to make it do that, that's an example of...
Yeah. Now, a lot of the time people will buy the standard vehicle, they'll buy a caravan, put it on and go, oh, it's lacking a bit of power, I'll get it tuned. Okay, on a few tasteful accessories, modifications, whatever, exhaust system, so on and so forth. And then it goes back to being like how it was before you hooked that van on. You go, oh, it feels good, it's pulling really hard. But at the same time, there's been no caution involved in what is my engine actually running like while I'm putting it under that pressure. To me, an absolute must, I was going to recommend this to you as well, an absolute must is if you have modified your deep-turbo diesel in any way, had it tuned in any way, you must run a boost gauge and an exhaust gas temperature gauge.
Okay.
An EGT,
Okay.
a pyro gauge. Reason being is you really do need to keep an eye on what's going on. And in those two particular variables, those two particular things, the boost and the exhaust gas temperature, that will tell you how your engine's running. And if there is going to be a problem way before anything else,
you can detect it.
You know, water temperature. Most factory gauges, the water temperature can go up by 20 degrees or more before that needle even starts to move.
Yeah.
Your cylinder temperature, so the actual temperature in your combustion chamber, it could be catastrophic. It could be incredibly high, and you're completely unaware of it because you've got no metering device to tell you.
No, yeah. So when you're talking about that, so it was a King's product, nothing about a King's products, but I bought the scan gauge, so I'm kind of halfway there because it doesn't have temperature gauge on it, but I don't think it's got the ECG on it.
It won't, no, because they don't actually have a factory probe in the exhaust itself to measure. There are
so you put one in?
You put
manually.
You actually put an aftermarket auxiliary one. Yeah.
And I'll come and see you about that.
Yeah, look, they're very easy to install, but to me it's a real necessary thing because I go, if you're going to up the power, and most people who get a tune as well, they've upped the power because they're going to be towing or or they've got more load on the vehicle. You really need to keep an eye.
It's distress.
Yeah, you really need to keep an eye. And the 1KDs are a great engine, but like everything, like I say, everything has its limitations, and you have to know where those limitations lie. If you're purely relying on it sounds okay, it feels like it's okay. No, you have to be certain, you have to know.
Yeah.
And the other thing comes in as well is if you're going to install these gauges, they've got to be good quality, they've got to be accurate, and they've got to be installed correctly.
Okay.
I see so many people, they come in here and they've got an exhaust gas temperature gauge, a pyro gauge, and the probe for actually detecting the temperature of the exhaust gas is installed as far from correct as it could possibly be. And I go, you have a false reading. They're so far down the exhaust system that I go, you'd never know whether you're actually going to run into excessively high cylinder temperatures or not because it's too far away from the engine.
Yeah.
And there's several locations I use to actually put those probes in, but the general rule of thumb is as close as you can get it to the exhaust manifold. Basically. But and the boost as well. The boost is necessary to know if you get a sudden drop in boost, there's a problem. Also, you want to know that you're making a good boost as well. this is another common misconstrued piece of information. People believe that boost is the killer for engines.
Yeah.
On a diesel engine, I'm going to say, basically, as a general rule, no. Boost is not the problem. It is overfueling and excessive cylinder temperatures, so combustion chamber temperatures. That is the killer for diesel engines. On a petrol, that's different. Boost is more vital to be monitored on the petrol engine, but on a diesel, no. Boost actually, a healthy amount of boost can actually help to lower cylinder temperatures.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but then we don't want to go too far the other way and have excessively high boost, because that's when we run into problems. So it's all a bit of a balancing act with tuning.
Yeah.
And everything has to happen at the correct time, the correct amounts, and that's how we get good, efficient, powerful engines, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, people get the wrong idea that boost kills diesel engines and blows them up. It's not usually the case at all. It's usually the fact that they are actually overfueling.
Yeah, okay.
And if a diesel engine runs rich, the temperature in that combustion chamber will be higher than necessary. And it can increase very, very quickly as well. We can go from 300 degrees to about 700 degrees in a matter of less than a minute. And that's why you really need to monitor what's happening. And it's usually when the vehicle is under load, pulling up a hill, or it's got a heavy load.
Yeah, like coming up the range at Toowoomba or something like that.
If you're coming up the range here at Toowoomba, like it's, you've got, I've driven a fair few of my vehicles up there, and you've got best part of 5 tonne between the vehicle and whatever you're towing, maybe even more. Slow and steady sometimes wins the race.
So you just got to back off, don't you?
You just have to.
You can't expect to be just doing 100 k's or you.
No, you just have to be aware, and that's the thing. Like, it gives you a false sense of security sometimes. Like, the vehicle feels like it wants to pull that hard and wants to get, accelerate away, and it might, but you've got to go back to the hard parts and the engineering. Metal has a certain operating temperature. It has before it naturally melts.
Yeah.
And this is what happens. So you've got to be more aware of it when you have the tune. Yes, okay, it feels like it wants to pull. It feels like it's got plenty of power there, and you can put your foot down and whoosh up it goes. But if you haven't changed anything internally in the engine, that's what you've got to be aware of.
So okay. So what I'm getting from you is that yes, the tune is okay.
Yeah.
But get it done properly, professionally.
Yeah. And
someone knows what they're doing, specific to your vehicle.
Yeah. So we're talking.
You want to have two vehicles side by side.
Yeah.
That Prado and that Prado, but they're completely different.
Yeah.
They'll get a different program, and they'll get a different program to suit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are specifically talking about common rails here as well. Your mechanical injection diesels, or your diesels with an EDC pump, as in like an electronically controlled injector pump.
Yeah.
They're a different thing altogether. That's a different style of tuning altogether.
Yeah, so that's another.
That's another completely
another
separate
vehicle.
Yeah. But the best way, and if you want to be guaranteed that you're going to get a tune and it's gonna work, it's gonna give you the results you want, and also keep the longevity in your engine.
Which is that's what it's all about.
Yeah, you have to find someone reputable, and it has to be a custom tune. Right?
Yeah.
And like you said, when they did the tune, they tested the injectors. They had a look at your current tuning map and went through it and assessed it. That's all part of it, and there's a lot of times that people won't do that. They'll simply go, oh, it's okay, and bung a tune into it, and
cross their fingers.
6 months down the track, all of a sudden you're starting to get problems with engines running a bit hot and so on and so forth, and that's because everything's been guessed. Nothing's actually been calculated. So
we may or may not. We probably have covered it, but if you can explain why would people say, or what happens to an engine? So when people say welcome to blown piston or cracked piston club or whatever. What are they? Where are they coming from? Why would someone be saying
Look,
that?
people have had bad experiences, and don't get me wrong, there's many vehicles that have had absolutely nothing done to them whatsoever. They are completely stock standard, and all of a sudden they've got a cracked or a blown piston.
Yeah.
It's the cracking of the piston is usually because of excessive heat in the combustion chamber.
And you said driver.
Yes, well, I've had it with vehicles that have been completely standard, and that's basically because of a generic tune from factory, and also the driving technique as well.
Yeah.
Some people really do push their vehicles way beyond their means. And this is what happens. Pistons will break down, they'll crack. It is more common in some engines than others, depends on the material they're made out of, also the way that engine actually dissipates the heat. I say I've only ever had 3 1KDs that I've actually had.
So you personally?
Personally, I've only actually had 3 that have had piston damage, and they've all, well, 2 of them have been because of poor injector quality, and the other one was driver misuse.
Yeah.
So pushing the vehicle way beyond what it should have been doing, and some very dodgy modifications as well. I don't think you're going to have a problem at all. I would be horrifically surprised if you did. And there are some.
I think we've done it all right. You know, like it's not blowing it out. It's not. It's a safe tune. Done everything right.
Your engine is very under stress. These 1KDs can and will produce really, really good power in stock form. And they are quite over-engineered. Some people don't like the 1KD. I reckon they're a good engine. They are over-engineered to a degree, like most of Toyota's creations, basically. If you are going to tune it and modify it, use good use good parts, use good quality products. Replacing a whole engine or rebuilding a whole engine at the end of the day is damn expensive. And a painful process.
So tuning. If we summarise what we've just said.
So I'm going to summarise tuning, and basically this.
And to dispel any myths.
This is how it goes. If you own a common rail turbo diesel,
okay,
for the love of God,
which are Prados,
which Prados are, do not anymore even consider a piggyback plug-in chip.
Right.
Find someone who is a reputable tuner that will run the vehicle up on the dyno, assess your vehicle, ask you what you want from it, and get the factory ECU flash tune.
Yeah.
There is then basically no room for error. You're going to have that engine run as good and as well as it possibly can.
To the optimum level.
Yeah. And every single aspect of that tune is specific to your vehicle.
Yeah.
Not like a chip that targets certain things. This is a complete overhaul of the software, basically. Right?
Yeah.
If you add things to your vehicle, an exhaust after you've had it tuned or something, I mean, ideally you'd like to have all those things in place, but it's not always plausible or possible at times. But get it reassessed.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I can't think of many people that have had a proper flash tune of the factory ECU that haven't been entirely happy with it.
Yeah.
And I guess, like we were saying, you really have to get that boost gauge and that pyro gauge and keep an eye on. It would be great if all vehicles came with that as a standard thing in your instrument cluster, but they don't. And it really is a necessary thing. You should. The most important one really is keep an eye on that exhaust gas temperature.
Okay.
That is going to be the one that tells you you really need to back off, or you've got a serious problem.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those, it purely is guesswork until all of a sudden things go bang. So as far as in summary, if you've got a common rail diesel, get the factory ECU flash tune.
Yeah. Okay.
Get your 2 gauges.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
You should be perfectly fine.
Yeah. One other subject to touch on. So, in the near distant future, I will be towing a van of some sort. Do I need to get, what do they call it, transmission cooler?
I would recommend it for anyone that's going to consider towing anything over 2 tonne.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, your factory cooler works, but again, we don't want to push anything beyond its means. We want to make sure that if we're going to push the vehicle at 90% all day, every day, we want everything surrounding that, all the hardware, to be capable of 110% every single day. For want of a better term, we want to basically over engineer and over prepare. Yes, an aftermarket transmission cooler is another must as far as I'm concerned. Transmissions aren't cheap to repair or replace.
No,
and if you want that transmission to last 300,000 or 400,000, look after it. Keeping the transmission fluid cool means it is going to work more efficiently. So yes, and they're not that expensive. They're a few $100s, and they do make a big difference. And again, especially if you're upping the power and adding more load, well, in between that's your transmission. You want to do something to it as well. And there are various things as well you can.
So that's. I better come and see you about that, hey then.
I've done a few. I've done a fair few of them. And there are other things you can do to transmissions if you really need to, and that's upgrading valve bodies and clutch packs and things. But that's a whole new kettle of fish altogether. Generally speaking, the transmissions in the 150s they're good. They're very strong, but you just want to look after it as well.
Well, mate, I know you got to get home because you got your family to get home to. And I really appreciate the time here.
That's all right.
And I thought I'd bring you, because you're a good bloke, I thought I'd bring you a couple of beers around. Beers in the shed, so to speak, in your shed. Dan's been great. If you want to watch a few videos on some of the stuff that I've done with the Prado with Dan's help, have a look. Hopefully that, from an expert, that dispels, if that's the right word, people's ideas or myths or whatever on tuning.
A lot of it is myths. A lot of it is.
Obviously, the bad reputation is the ones that are the bad, bad tunes, isn't it? There's always a dodgy person around, a dodgy mechanic.
It's not always that they're dodgy. It's just lack of expertise sometimes. It really is. And I guess the moral of the story is, with any modifications to any vehicle, is you need to pay attention to detail. It's great having a big flash turbo, slapping it on, but what about everything else? You've got to really be forward thinking. And it goes with even minor modifications. And every vehicle that comes through here that I modify, every Pro comes with a con. And you have to work out those cons and how to iron those out as best as possible. It's as simple as that. Okay. It would be great if we could just do anything we wanted to a car and there'd be no pitfalls. Every Pro comes with some form of con. It's dealing with those cons and attention to detail.
And knowing what those cons could be.
Okay.
Excellent. And so Dan, your background is European vehicles and Prado or Toyota.
That's how I started. And I kind of Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of four-wheel drive stuff here, we do the European and more specialised stuff as well. That's just because that's how I started in the industry, really.
And what have you got sitting out there? What Land Cruiser is that?
80 series.
80 series, an 80 series Land Cruiser just sitting outside here.
Yeah, so I've had many different makes and models and of Land Cruisers and Hiluxes over the years, and the 80 series is one I've always wanted to get my hands on a really nice clean one, and I have, and I'm going to extensively modify it, but over over time, because there's a fair bit of work involved.
So I suppose what I'm saying is that you, not only are you doing this for as a job, you live and breathe it. You love your forward driving, you love getting out there.
Yeah.
You're a mechanic. You're you're an air conditioning specialist,
auto electrician,
and auto electrician as well. So and as I said, you live and breathe it. So he knows what works, what doesn't. He's used to being out there in the field, basically.
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of the boring stuff as well, and the boring stuff is that, like I say, that attention to detail.
Yeah.
I like to find out what can go wrong and come up with a solution for that. Not go, I'll ignore what could possibly happen. I go, this could possibly happen. I'd like to find out what remedy there is available to stop that from happening. Which is what I do with most things. I do go a bit overboard in some of the builds that I do, but at the end of the day, it's, to me, I go, you're getting a much better end result. Yeah.
And look, I know I've said this before, but when I first met you and started getting to know you a bit and took the advice that you gave me, mate, it's been perfect. Came back, did that Cape York trip, used a product, got your advice, sorted it all out, haven't looked back. So that's why I took your advice and got a tune.
I guess there's people do get afraid about cracking pistons and so on and so forth, and like they say, bad news travels faster than good. And not every diesel that you own, modify, tune is going to crack pistons and cause you problems. It simply is the very, very minority that have problems. But also, like I say, you've got to be aware of the vehicle you drive and how you drive it. And
take care of it.
Take care of it. Take care of it. Like, don't get me wrong. Use them, even abuse them, but take care of them. It all comes down to that.
Well, mate, thanks again.
That's all right.
I'm going to let you get home. You got family to get home to and all that. Pack up your workshop and we'll come back and do it all again tomorrow. Not this part, but
this is the first time I've ever actually sat down on this couch.
Is that right?
Since I've been in this office, the first time I've ever sat on it. So.
He's a hard man to catch though. I had to con him with some beers to get him to have a bit of a chat.
Dangle the carrot.
That's it. So I really appreciate your time, and from some of the comments that I've been getting, some really good advice that you're giving out. So appreciate that.
There's a lot more on this subject, and we can talk about it all night long about the technicalities of tuning and engine fire and so on and so forth. But I think we've summarised mainly most of it, and there'll be people out there that have their opinions, and like everyone, they're entitled to them. But it comes down to the end of the day is just pay attention to detail. Comes down to the laws of physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction.
That's right.
Just think of it that way, and I know it's painful sometimes. You do one thing, I've got to do that. But that's not the fun part. Do it. Because it ain't going to be fun. 2 years down the track when it all goes kaboom.
That's right. Especially if you're wheeling a track or something and you're getting towed a few thousand k's back to whatever. All right, mate. No worries. We'll leave it there.
Okay.
Yeah. Catch you on the next one.
Yeah, probably.
Well, get out of here, another episode. Welcome back to Prado 150. Out of here, yes. Welcome back, Prado 150. Out of here. So I'm just in the shed at the moment. Welcome back to Prado 150 out of here. So you can probably hear the rain going on in my shed here.